Just so. So, Brian, my humble apology for having left you out. Okay, and I wish you well. I hope you continue, and in the years to come, you will be better.
How is he, by the way?
He's there, you know. I mean, and the last time I spoke to his wife, he says he's there, he's eating, but you know the memory seems to be
Okay, challenged.
yeah.
Okay, so yes, Mr. Dye, when we left, we were actually, giving our people, our viewers, and also listeners an idea of what transpired during the tenure of the late Dame Eugenia Charles.
Yeah, yeah.
So you could continue.
And incidentally, in that respect, so Brian Allen and myself are the only two remaining cabinet members
Wow.
for the government in 1980.
Only two remaining members.
Yes.
All the rest have gone to meet the maker.
There were six of us, I think. And so Brian and myself were the two remaining.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, we were on the mic doctor thing when I decided, because the Constitution makes provision for leader of the opposition, and we didn't have leader of the opposition, the opportunity came for me to try and get a leader of the opposition. And that is why I went across and I told Mike so. But Mike agreed, and Mike said, well, prepare the document. I prepared the document. Mike signed it. Matthew Joseph signed it, and I signed it. And I brought it to His Excellency, the President, Clarence Senior, at about 11 o'clock that day. And Sir Clarence, he shook my hand. He says, you know, this thing worried me, and I was happy you were doing this. He said, good luck. So I left. About 2:30 that day, Sir Clarence called me, and he said, I want to see you urgently. I went to his office, and he says, I'm afraid to tell you that Matthew Joseph have withdrawn his signature on the document. And you cannot go along. So we made inquiries and what happened was Matthew Joseph, after he had signed the document, he went for lunch with the then General Ammo. And we don't know what happened. All we know that he withdrew his signature.
So what eventually happened after?
Well, the position remained the same thing
For how long?
until the House was dissolved in 1985.
Wow. But what was the duration without leader of the opposition? How long?
Well, that was about 2 years, is it? Because
so historically,
historically, the leader of the opposition, we did not have when the government was formed. There was no leader of the opposition, and the government is for 5 years.
Yeah.
And this thing I'm talking about with making Michael was about 3 years after. So then the government
never had a leader of the opposition
until the House was dissolved.
So for information and for clarity, between 1980 and 1985, in the Commonwealth of Dominica,
there was not a leader.
There was not a leader
of the opposition.
Who was the Speaker of the House then?
Mary Davis Spear.
Mary Davis Spear.
Yeah.
And no one challenged that after?
Well, you couldn't challenge it in the sense that the House dissolved the election in 1985. And that is when the opposition forces got together
in 1985.
And I was part of that, and then there were three leaders there was Mike Douglas, the leader, and there was Ujo Serafin, deputy leader, and I was the deputy leader.
So there were two deputy leaders.
That for the election of 1985. And importantly, Rosie Douglas, we took a decision that Rosie Douglas would not be part of that organization. So Rosie Douglas ran in 1985, but not with the opposition forces that we called it the Dominica Shoe Party, the Labour Party. Because don't forget, the Labour Party, the hat was always been the symbol of the Labour Party. I think up to now, I think I don't, I'm not, I think they're still holding the hat. But Ruzi, we were able to allow Ruzi.
No, let's clarify that. So, as we speak, officially, the symbol for the Labour Party is the hat.
Yes, I
So
don't
where
know.
the shoe came, where the shoe came in?
The shoe came in when Leblanc
Mhm.
dismissed three ministers, Moyo James, Stevens, and Ukri. And he called the Labour Party the Leblanc Shoe Party and used the shoe as the symbol. But the original symbol of the Labour Party is the hat.
Okay.
And so we were able to tell Ruzi, well, you cannot run with this. And I can tell you the reason why is because the American government decided that they would not support us if Ruzi was being part of that.
And the reason for that is because of what happened in Canada.
Well, Ruzi was, and so Ruzi didn't like, and we explained to Ruzi what was happening, but we decided not to send a candidate against Ruzi.
So he couldn't actually run for the Labour Party, but wherever he actually
Paybush constituency,
constituency.
he went in as the independent candidate, we allowed him to use the hat. Okay.
But
And
the
he won,
Labour
and-
Party then, the shoe, did not send a candidate against him
Yes.
in solidarity.
Yeah, and he won the election
He won in 1985.
in 1985. I lost.
You lost to Alan Guy.
But
That was the time Alan Guy.
yes,
Alan
and
Guy
then
beat you.
and then Uju Serafin lost, also he was a deputy. But I can tell you, in my view, I've never lost an election in Dominic except in 2009, because in that 1985 election, I won. I believe. Well, let's say I officially I lost the election, but no other candidate got more votes than me, except Alan Guy, who was the newcomer at Alan Guy. But another interesting thing is that the Roseau North constituency was the last. It was the last results of the election in the 21 constituency. It was very unusual. But but as far as I'm concerned, I didn't lose the election. As I said, when you look at the votes, the only person that got more votes than me was Alan Guy. Although the constituency was the bigger constituency, but when you look at Grand Bay, when you look at the other places in Roseau Central and whatnot, they won, but they didn't get more votes,
overall
votes than I got.
So what happened in 1989?
19.
You said in the 85 election, Alan Guy beat you.
Yeah. But then the Freedom Party still won, but with a reduced majority. And then we got an official, Mike, I think was official leader of the opposition.
So then in 1990, you also
No, I didn't. I
contest.
didn't contest in 1990.
So you were done with this.
I wasn't down in it, but I said let me take a rest in 1990.
Okay.
But the Freedom Party, they won in 1990, but a very reduced majority. And I supported the Freedom Party, not in official, but I supported them in 1990. But what had happened in I think in 1990 was that PJ apparently in that year he had won
In
the
St. Joseph.
1985 election in St. Joseph, and in 1990 he was not allowed to run. He had taken the position that he couldn't, and then there was a court case against him and whatnot.
What is your opinion on this? You were actually very active during, let's say, 1975 until 1990. That was the period of Patrick John, then O.J. Seraphim, and then Mary the Dame. In your opinion, what were the fundamental differences between the two? Well, Labor, then the Dem Lab, O.J. Seraphim, and then the Freedom.
Well, let me sorry. But let me tell you that my opinion in terms of, if you or because we're talking in terms of 1980,
Mm,
when the government, Freedom Party government was formed.
mm,
And in my view, that the Labour Party, um, you could say, lost the election because, although there was a move against the Labour Party in that sense, but it came in as two parties.
the Dem Lab, and
And
then the Dominican Labour Party.
so if there was only one Labour Party, I don't
Well,
know.
basically three, because I think Alliance was also like
Well,
a semi
there. So
leg
what would have been the results in 1980 if there wasn't this Dem Lab
split.
split? Yeah, and but the Freedom Party won handsomely too.
Mm,
And then in 1990, they lost some votes, but they still retained the government,
mm,
you know. But we then had an official opposition, you know. Was it? I can't remember if it's the Mike or when did
During that time, it was Mike.
it was Mike.
Mike, that was
Because
the leader of the
I'm looking
opposition.
at I'm
Because he
looking
was then the leader of
I'm
the
looking
Labour
at
Party.
I'm looking at when did Edison James became
Well, Edison James was
came
in
in
1995.
1995. He came in. He
I
came
think
in.
they,
No, he
no,
won the
no,
election
in
in that.
1990, but then they came in 1990 as
And was he not
the
the opposition in
in
1980?
1990. That is debatable, and if someone possibly have the
Yeah,
information, they can call us.
because I think they became the
I
opposition.
think at first,
There was
the
something
first,
that happened. I mean,
I think the first time, I
let
think the
me-
United Workers Party won, I think 6 or so
I mean,
seats. Yes, you're right.
they
You're
came
right.
for the first time.
Yes, and they won about
and,
6
and I
seats.
think they
I think.
became the official opposition.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah,
And then the next 1995,
they won the election.
they won the election.
Yes.
It's a very Dominic is very interesting. I mean, in 1995, I ran for the Freedom Party in 1995.
Again,
Even
it was an up also.
yes, I would never up now if I was to go now, but if I was to go to run elections again, I would go to Rosso now.
So
And the
who beat
reason
you?
for that,
Who beat you in 1995?
Timothy.
Oh yes, Julius
But
Timothy.
again, Timothy beat me in only one polling station or one polling station in 1995 because he had left Newtown and he came. And there again, I'm saying that's why I'm saying I never lost the election because in 1995, I mean the Timothy won in Fonkule and I think a low Pottersville or something, but only other polling stations I won. But Fonkole I didn't understand it because Fonkole was
Struggle.
it was a stronghold. But then I found out, and don't forget Fonkole was the people at Mount Daniel and so on, they voted in Fonkole. But in that election in 1995 with Timothy, Fonkole was 7 o'clock people were voting in Fonkole. And it was a lot of young people. I said I heard a lot of past.
Well, but let's move on to Henry Dyer, the family man.
Well, yes.
This is it historic that in Dominica, a wife, husband, and daughter were attorneys at the same time? Is it?
Well,
Is there? Were there any other situations in Dominica?
not that as I know of. I know that I know. I really that
So this is historic.
I don't know if it's historic, but
I mean, to Dominica, we're
but,
talking about
but, but
Dominica. A wife
I yes, and my wife, my daughter,
and daughter and a husband.
and well, we're a professional family. My wife is a professional. My daughter is a professional lawyer.
Speak a little louder.
My other daughter is a medical surgeon,
Mhm.
and she's in Barbados. She's a professor at Ross University and has been with Ross for the past 17 years. She was in Dominica. And and something happened, when I told you that the last time when when I went to Barbados. Ross left Dominica and she was there and she moved with Ross and they were in St. Kitts and then they went to America, they went on a boat and whatnot and so on. So I hadn't seen Heather, that's her name, for quite a while. I mean, almost 7 years. And seen my grandchildren. And when I went to Barbados and I met them, I mean, tears started. I cried. Like I hadn't seen this family before. And the boy, Henri, is his name. He was called Henri after me, the French
French to Henry
Yeah.
Henry.
And and when I saw this, he taller than me, taller than me.
Mhm.
And then when I saw he went playing in a tennis tournament, and his mother is there with him and whatnot. I saw my mother.
Wow.
When I looked at Heather and on the court, and I'm looking, she's there. I saw Heather. You know why? And my mother, because that is what my mother was doing when I was a sportsman. Anytime I was in the Windsor Park, the first person on the stand was my mother. In the Windsor Gardens, my mother was the first person. Very, very close. So when I saw this in Barbados, this boy playing tennis and his mother is there with him and whatnot, oh my God, I saw my mother.
Have all three of you, your wife and daughter, worked on a case, any case
Oh,
together?
yes, oh, yes. We worked on many cases
Together.
together. Uh, um, don't forget that, when I'm listening to this whole thing about the Gina is and Gina she did a landmark. She got a landmark decision in the CCJ, and it is a case dealing with land and squatters' rights. You know, and there was this. It was a guy and some town politician, and they went to court, and Gina represented the guy.
The squatter.
Is it guy? She represented the defendant.
Mhm.
The guy, the other fellow name was, the fellow who did John Repair Tire.
Oh, John. Yeah, Flashy. Yeah, John.
He's his son.
Yeah.
And there was this big case there, and they ruled against Gina. The first instance court ruled against her, saying that this man was a squatter and whatnot and so on, although he had rights. But it would seem as if the judge below said that even if you squat and whatnot, unless you get a certificate of title, you have not out the person who had the certificate title before. I think this is the genesis of the case, and worked on the case. Worked on the case, and she appealed against the decision of the first instance judge, who was the fellow Judge Cuttle. And then it went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal ruled against her, against. And she said, Daddy, we're going to fight. We're going right up to the CCJ. And she went to the CCJ, and the CCJ ruled,
In
favor.
Africa.
So it's a landmark decision because it's a settled law now, as far as that decision is concerned.
In
But
terms of squatters' rights.
yes, so I will probably have a little more to say when we speak on this bugging case.
Okay.
Right.
You were also very instrumental with the Kinfield Airport.
Oh yes, and it's remarkable, man. Sometimes when I watch the Kenfield Airport, I don't see why the government is not spending money and maintaining the airport as it's supposed to maintain. The Kenfield Airport has saved Dominica during the Hurricane David, not David,
Maria.
Maria, during but the other one named Erica. It has been the same. My position, as far as the Canefield Airport is concerned, is I was in Barbados when they started at the airport, and the Prime Minister, the opposition at the time, Junior, they said that was a cowboy sort of thing. I read it and so on, and it was supposed to be more or less a dirt airport and whatnot, and they said it was a playboy thing, and so she didn't want. But when I came in 1980 and he didn't want, and they influenced me to run it. I remember Emil Lancelot was the government secretary or anything. And the first thing he asked me was, Mr. Dyer, what about the Kenfield Airport? You are the Minister of Communication and Roads now. And I replied to him that Kenfield Airport, as far as I am concerned, Minister, is a priority. And he said, What? I said, that's how I look at it. And I embarked on that mission to establish Canefield. And I got the assistance because it had started by the British. And I got the assistance of but what really happened was that after Hurricane David, the French government had given a grant of money to fix the bridge, the how do you call it? The bridge, the two rivers uh, going up to the airport, that bridge there. And the Americans, so they came and they fixed the bridge so that the money that the French had allocated to that was not used. So the prefect of Bordeaux was a man named Max Vincent. He came to me and he said, Look, we have all this money there for this bridge and whatnot. And if we don't utilize it, it is going to go back to France. And I said, No, I mean, I said to myself, well, we can't allow money to go. So I told him, he told me what I said, well, I think we can use it at Canefield. We could divert the road that is going through the port thing and get the Canefield completed. He says, I said, yes. I mean, he says, well, if get your engineers and whatnot to give up a plan, and if it comes within the amount, we will do that. So we agreed, and we went ahead and signed an agreement and whatnot. And he came and he says, there's the French contractors in Martinique, Lagouven, if I remember. And he says, they are prepared to come and do it and whatnot. So everything going. So the day when they came with the equipment and everything outside the cane field, badges of all their heavy equipment and whatnot. People told them, I can never remember. People came. So the junior called an emergency cabinet meeting, and she says, "What's all this about? What's all this about?" I said, well, Madam Prime Minister, I mean, you give me a ministry to run, and I think I'm running the ministry. I mean, but I said, well, I mean, but I know that what had happened and the money, and I explained to her, and she shook her head and whatnot. A lot of things said between us. But to cut a short short, we completed the Cane Field Airport. And I got a Canadian to join us, and, and after the French and British. And that's how Cane Field Airport is established. And I give you a story, when we were officially opening Cane Field, the program, even Prime Minister Charles was to deliver the feature address. And when we started the program, I got just before it started, the police came with a letter and from the Prime Minister saying to me, sorry, she's not able to address the thing. I told the permanent secretary, who was Master Doctor at the time, but look, I said, well, just cross and I will do the feature address. And I did the feature address and opened the airport.
So the Dame was actually against the completion of the.
Well. I mean, the way it happened, she couldn't stop it.
But if she had, or if she was she in agreement with the completion or not?
She had no choice, because by then, it was suicidal to stop it, and I knew that, and because it was not your money, it was not our money, we're getting money in town. And not only that, look at what has happened with foresight. Look at what has happened as far as Canefield is concerned, and I still believe that Canefield should continue to be an airport. We can't have one airport in Dominica, leave it so far. There must be an airport close to the city of Roseau and whatnot. And so, what you have to do is to improve the airport and keep it going, because the topography of Dominica, the landscape of Dominica, slides you're common, and then you're stuck, So that was my view, and I got and the telling you that Canefield Airport. Another little story about that. When the airport was completed and so on, we had to get a fire service, a fire truck for the airport, and they had this fire jeep. So the people at the port, the charge of the port, they said to me, they have just landed. The boat brought this fire jeep, and it's landed in Dominica by mistake because it's for Anguilla. So after Nessie was in charge, and he came and he said, "What should I?" I said, "No, don't put it back. Don't send it to Anguilla. Leave it in Dominica." And I called Lennox Honeychurch, who was the press secretary at the time, and incidentally, I was acting prime minister at the time. And he said, "Well, I want you to send a message to Sir Stanley Arthur and tell him that the Dominican government thank him for this gift."
That was airlifted, earmarked for Anguilla.
and Stanley Arthur, he called me and he says, "Henry, good show. it will remain in Dominica."
You're also an international man. In front of me now, a certificate of ambassadorship awarded to you for serving the ambassador of Dominica and the 2010 World Forum. Tell us about that. And
the World Forum, don't forget I was very active in the International Bar Association. Uh-huh. And then the World Forum, if you know, it's an organization by the International Biographical Center and the American Biographical Institute.
So you were the president of the?
No. I was a member of the International Bar Association. But then in the International Bar Association, there was the Human Rights Institute of the bar. And I was elected among the lawyers to co-chair that institute. The other Attorney General at the time was Lord Goldsmith, who was Attorney General of England. I was Attorney General of Dominica. And we both chaired that institute. Nelson Mandela was the patron of that institute. So that I was very active in the International Bar Association. I mean, I went all over the world, you know, attended
Do we have any
conferences.
representative now as we speak?
I don't know. I mean, as a matter of fact, I assisted in bringing a conference of the International Bar to the Caribbean held in Barbados at the time. I deal with the people there. So I have been very active, you know, on the side. As a matter of fact, if you look at the cookbook of the International Bar Association, you'll see my name there and Dominica, how you make a broth in Dominica.
I There's a question, a burning question that I would like to ask your intervention in. Let's suppose a government sets a budget.
If
A government
uh-huh.
sets a budget, and prior to the end of that particular year, budget year,
Mhm.
the government changes. What happened to?
Yeah, but Kenfield was one, not Kenfield is an example, for instance, where that thing had started, Kenfield had started by the Labour Party. The Freedom Party came and left to say the leader of the party. That was able to scrap it.
And the reason why I say that, let's suppose the stadium, the first stadium was earmarked and was already
The present the Winter Park Stadium.
well, the work was already done. There was concrete in, everything by the
I
United Labour
understand.
Party, and then
I don't believe that if a government starts a project for the country and a new government comes in before the completion of that project, that they should scrap it as if it's not. They should, and I think the government should, in my view, obligated to continue it. And that is my view as far as the Windsor Park Stadium was concerned. And that the government at the time they decided to have a stadium in the Windsor Park. There was a contractor from Venezuela, and when the government changed, then in my view that should not change the completion of the stadium.
can you say the same thing for the international airport?
I would say the same thing. I mean, we're not a rich country, and then the stadium. I mean, they had to dig out all the concrete and throw it by the bay and so on and so on because, I mean, if money was the problem, as they said, then they report the government. But somehow you should be able to compromise. You should be able to, well, yes, I mean, but to scrap it and decide we're going to have our own, I don't think that is the thing. I don't think any government, and I'm saying this as far as the future of Dominica is concerned. If the government now has
Started
projects.
several
Look
projects.
at they have the grammar school going on.
Mhm.
Look, they have the Goodwill school going on.
Okay, for instance, this new airport project, presently the international airport. If for some reason, let's say the government would change,
Yeah, would they say they're not continuing it? No, I think it
should continue, regardless to who.
Yeah,
supersedes.
just like the new grammar school that has been built there, and then the Goodwill school.
All projects that are ongoing. If there is a change of administration,
I think we have a responsibility to continue it.
that new administration has that
Yes,
responsibility.
and I put a rider there. Unless there are extreme circumstances which allows you to say no. It must be extreme circumstances, but under normal circumstances, I think the incoming government should continue the obligation of the other.
I see you as a real luminary in terms of legal affairs, and you with your family. I mean, you yourself, 50 years, you just celebrated your 50th anniversary, your golden jubilee as an attorney with some of your
Yeah,
counterparts in Barbados. Are
yeah,
you hearing me?
yeah, yeah,
In Barbados.
yeah.
We are now faced with two national issues. And I really wanted us to take some time to deal with that. It would be remiss of me if I have an expert
Yeah.
in legal affairs in Dominica, former minister that.
Well, I don't know if you want to call me an expert, but
Well, yes, I mean, after
I
50
mean,
years
yeah,
of
yeah, well, yeah,
experience,
well, experience, yes.
and plus you have laid a foundation for your legacy to
Yeah,
continue,
well, yeah,
wife and
yeah,
daughter,
yeah, yeah,
and that sort of thing.
yeah.
What is your opinion on the ongoing national issues that
Well,
are
I think there are two
also legal?
issues.
Two issues.
Issues there now. There's the question of the Bogwell law,
Yeah.
and then there's the question of the death of this nurse.
Yes.
My view on the Bogwell law is that a decision was given by a, we call it a one instant judge decision. Um, Let me make it clear, I have not read the judgment of that judge. But it would seem to me, from what I'm hearing, and that the decision of that judge, the judge did not dismiss the claim of the citizens that brought the case. They did not dismiss it, from what I can gather. Now, there were constitutional issues involved with that. And as far as I am concerned, with all what I'm hearing and whatnot, I would prefer to have our highest court, which is the CCJ, give a judgment on that issue before, because the court, it is the court that interprets the law of the country. And that's why you have the separation of powers. You have the judiciary, you have the legislature, and you have the executive. So that it is, and the case law, it is the court that interprets the law that is passed by Parliament. So when once and the Constitution is at stake, we must, anybody who challenges the Constitution, we must have a finality judgment from our highest court. And that is what I would want to see as far as this issue is concerned.
To break it down, I mean, further, you're not satisfied with just allowing the judgment to take precedence as is.
Well, I understand that some lawyers are trying to separate and dissect the judgment and whatnot. I mean, I'm saying that as long as the Constitution of Dominica is at stake, the law, any decision by a court, it must have a finality decision, which is from your highest court. So all the talk and I don't think it is too late to move the CCJ as far as this is concerned, and to give a ruling as far as that court decision is concerned.
We haven't heard officially from, let's say, the government side as to.
Well, I understand that they're saying that the government did not defend the matter. As I said, I have not read the matter.
But if you would have an advice to, let's say, the government at this point in time, based on the judgment as is, and to allow that judgment to take precedence.
Look, let me just read. Let me just read the preamble of the Constitution of Dominica, and it says here: whereas the people of Dominica have affirmed that the Commonwealth of Dominica is founded upon the principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God in fundamental human rights and freedom, the position of the family in a society of free men and free institutions, the dignity of the human person, and the equal and inalienable rights with which all members of the human family are endowed by their Creator. And interestingly, D, D says, recognize that men and institutions remain free only when freedom is founded upon respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law.
Break them down first. I mean, dissect this.
So I'm saying that where the morality is concerned and spiritual values are concerned, any final decision should come from the CCJ, which is our highest court. And incidentally, you know, in the OECS, Dominica was the first to subscribe to the CCJ in its appellate jurisdiction. And I mean, the highest court for criminal and civil law is the CCJ. Dominic was the first to have do that. The Privy Council still remains the highest court for St. Vincent, Antigua, Montserrat, and Grenada. I think the last one in St. Lucia apparently has now subscribed to the CCJ. But in civil and criminal matters, our highest court is the CCJ. But all the CARICOM countries, the highest court for disputes between states, straight disputes, all of them have subscribed to the CCJ. And that is in its original jurisdiction. We just recently heard a decision given in favor of Ivo Nassif with regards to the trade, because it's the CCJ in its original jurisdiction interprets the Treaty of Chaguaramas. So here was this Dominica thing, and they soaked it and Nassif and whatnot. And they ruled in favor of I haven't read the job, but they ruled in favor of Dominica. I'm not Nassif. Mm-hmm. But that is in its original jurisdiction, not in its appellate jurisdiction.
So you would, in other words, with that particular situation, if you were to, let's say, advise the government, you would tell them to bring that situation to a finality by going and get an opinion or bringing the situation to the CCJ.
That, in my humble opinion, my little humble opinion, would be to settle the law, because people say, well, oh, you want to do this, but you can't do that. There's a moral.
And you're saying that on the background, it will definitely, the judgment may affect the Constitution.
Since the Constitution is involved, it would seem to me that we need a finality judgment concerning the issues that these fellows or the citizens have brought to the court. They didn't bring it to anybody else, they brought it to the court. And it is the court that interprets the Constitution and the law. And so let us have, if our final court saying yes, well, that is so, that's so. And that is my view. Okay.
In terms of the other situation, the other national issue with the nurse,
well, yes, my view on this is that it's a national issue.
Let's go closer to the mic.
The circumstances under which this thing happened, and I think that I believe that there is a board of the law of inquiry law. A commission of inquiry should be appointed. A commissioner, an independent commissioner, and the government would have under this appoint a presenter of the state's case in terms of that, and the family of the nurse would have somebody presenting their case, so that you would have a independent investigation, if you want to call it. Um,
Yeah, but as far as we heard from the president of the board of the directors of the hospital, they are indeed going to be pursuing an
well,
independent
yes, but
inquiry.
I'm saying I
Are
think
you
I
in
heard it.
agreement with this?
Yes, I mean it should be
But then,
investigated.
in terms of the composition of that
But
inquiry,
I'm saying that it should be a commissioner, a man of experience, a past judge, or somebody with legal background, who comes in and he has evidence in terms from both sides. The government presents its evidence, um, representing because and mark you, and that must be done within 6 months. It must start and end within 6 months.
but in terms of let's say a local for to avoid any bias, would you suggest let's say a
Well,
foreign
that's why I said
commission?
a foreign person.
Independent could mean local
Yes,
or
independently. But if we have such a person in Dominica, yes,
Mhm.
you know.
But then your suggestion would be somebody foreign.
But because we know of the politics and whatnot and so on. So, but I think that deserves that kind of inquiry, as far as the way this
Was
this
not.
and passing for baby and whatnot. It's a national issue, and we have had it. We have had. You remember you remember the Edison James and they call it the Buggin case.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oreo cookies.
Yeah,
Business.
yes. You remember there was a commissioner,
Mhm.
an ex-judge from Barbados. I think his name was Ward, if I'm not mistaken. They gave evidence. Public and people gave evidence against evidence, and then and he came up with a decision. I believe that is what should happen. And then argue. I mean, and the matter is so important, and it's so serious that the state should pay the presenter, pay the commissioner, pay the presenter of government, and pay the presenter of the family. Because it's a national issue, and we want to get to the root of this, what happened, so that in future it won't happen again. You understand? And that is, you don't want people to be saying the skeptical about this, and let it be public. Let the commissioner there. He's hearing evidence. Evidence is there, and both sides are given there. And he goes and he collates his evidence and he gives a decision.
So, what is your opinion in the meantime of that particular judgment? For instance, the fraternity now.
You're talking about the nurse,
Oh yes, yes, yes. But then I just sliding back a little to the other situation, the hottest possibly issue now with several stakeholders or several including the spiritual, including even
what?
Because I just want some education, and possibly the layman may ask himself in the situation of the present judgment before, let's say, you go to, in the event there may be a penalty with the Supreme Court, that particular judgment now takes precedence. For instance, the people that brought the case forward now can partake in their normal secrecy of privacy, according to the judgment. That can continue.
As I said, I've not read the judgment, but what I'm saying is that the one judge decision
should not be final.
Should not be the final thing in Dominica. That judgment should go to the Privy
Yeah.
the CCJ,
Why
and
I
then the
understand
CJ,
that?
yeah.
But once I understand that, in the meantime, that particular judgment has been issued. Let's say the congregation now who partake in those activities and who feel that that is their right. Should they know, or can they be prosecuted? Because what I understand is there is that supreme constitutionality which is against it, and there is a court decision that is permitting it.
Let's put it that way. Before they approached the court, the citizens, before they went to the court, what was the position
Illegal.
in them?
It was illegal.
Well, like what it's only because they felt they were affected.
Their rights. They
Their
didn't
right.
have the exact right or
Yes.
the same
And
rights.
that is why they went to the court.
That's why they went to the court.
And I'm saying that having gone to the court, we, and not only the government, but concerned the citizens, especially the churches and whatnot, they should, in my view, they should, I don't know where, they should have taken active part in that. And I'm saying it is not too late to approach in my view, to approach the CCJ so that the CCJ can hand down a finality judgment concerning this. I think that would settle, and people would, the Dominican citizen. I can jump on that, and from that to the, for instance, another issue is the electoral reform.
What's your opinion? Quickly, as we're running out of time. Yeah.
The electoral reform, in my view, is we are hearing a lot of talk about Mr. Prime Minister Skerrit. In my view, Prime Minister Skerrit has nothing to do with elections. He is a leader of a political party, just as Thompson Fountain is the leader of a political party, just as Ito is the leader of a. What happens is the leader of the Labour Party is in government. You understand? But the Constitution establishes a commission, electoral commission, that is responsible for elections. And I believe the composition of the commission is two members appointed by the government in office, and two members appointed by the opposition in office. The fifth person, which is the chairman, is appointed by the president in his own deliberate judgment. So there's nothing wrong with the Constitution. What I believe that has happened, and everybody's blaming on one, is the operators of the Constitution that is having the problem. The people who are faced to operate the Constitution, and that is what is making. But the Electoral Commission is there.
So the main operators should be the commission.
The commission, and you're not hearing anything about the commission. I think Duncan Stowe is the chairperson and whatnot. The pressure should be on the commission, because if you are not able to do the work as commissioners, resign. But you are there, and the people, and if you are showing your strength as a commissioner under the Constitution, the public will be behind you. The public must be behind you.
So I think all pressure should be
because the Prime Minister is not responsible for elections. The government is responsible for producing, the Minister of Finance in Parliament, for producing money to allow the Commission to do its work. That is my view.
So all pressure should be given to the commission.
The commission is the one established by the Constitution to deal with elections.
Last question: if that commission is not functioning, What can be
Let
done?
me tell you, they must resign.
So they should resign.
They resign. If you cannot do the work, resign and let other people who want to do the work, let them be appointed.
Who should be forcing them to resign?
But it's the people.
The people. The
It's
people
the
should come together in
the people.
the event that the
You
commission-
our constitution gives you the responsibility to deal with elections. And before I live, Father Jolly, before he died, he called me once. He was a very good friend of mine.
We have to get ready for the news.
And he tells me, Henry, you know the problem in Dominica? We don't have enough men with B.
I understand. Testicular fortitude. Yes, Dominica, this was Henry Babs Dyer, politician, sportsman, attorney, family man, community man, international, regional man. And finally, he gave his opinion on several issues that have been really circulating within our space, forcefully at that. And he's a luminary, to my mind, a legal luminary. 50 years in the business, celebrating his golden jubilee as an attorney, and that was his opinion. So we want to thank him and really wish him all the best. May God continue to bless, guide, and protect you with lots of life. And we say thank you for at least educating us and giving us that level of information where we can assimilate and possibly take root. You never know in our community. This was another Creole Heartbeat program. Next week we'll be having a tribute to Mikel. Quite a bit of the participants will be taking part in this. Thank you very much for listening to QFM, the big station, the news, the major comes up next. Yes, Mr. Dyer, you want to say something?
Yes, I just want to say thank you again and so on. And as long as I'm able, I will be able to help assist.
Yes, we need some consultation because I really wanted to find out from you, but then time has gone. Our system of education on the Constitution. This is another Creole Heartbeat program. The news major comes up next.
Yes, I. Sakai Malan, Prince Madix, Prince Madix, Prince Madix, Prince Madix. Papou wete ba moun plen la yon manja kite la vie. Apprecier sa yo ka fe kon yo a parmi nou jodi. La te mouve valet pied non nou ka konsife moun epi. Pour nous connaître ou meilleur pour nous tout ça bénéfice. For only wonders you done for us all, spreading the culture all over.